Okay, yeah. So the play is it's about my journey, you know. It's about my journey through the music industry as a reggae artist, um, growing up in Brixton, born and bred, and also my spiritual journey, you know, when I went over to India. So it's kind of placed in when I first went to India and I went on a silent retreat. The first few days of that silent retreat, a lot of noise. There was a lot of noise going on, and so many memories just started to come back to me, which I'd not thought of for many, many years. So the play is about, you know, those memories playing out and being guided by my mother, my sister Cherry, and my ancestor Nanny of the Maroons. So that's basically it in a nutshell.
Nice. So it's almost, would you say that you are playing your own self, or is the character that you play a brand new character?
That's really an interesting question because um the character I'm playing is myself, but there are many voices in the play. So it's really hard to call it a one woman play
Yeah, yeah.
because there's so many characters.
Mm.
Um, so obviously we're using projections and we're using sound, voices, voiceovers, but there are many voices, and some of the sometimes we think, you know, when we hear voices that we hear, our mind is very, very busy. We think it's our natural self that's
Mm.
talking, and sometimes we make decisions based off what our mind is saying to us to do,
Yeah.
and you know, and that's not always the case. When you, what I've had to do is to sift it through, and find the true one, the one who is truly talking. And sometimes you fall off, you know. Sometimes you forget, but it's just always about just reminding yourself, just reminding who I am, who's really speaking, who's really saying this. It's just a constant reminder. It's just reminding
Yeah.
yourself all the time. And you know, I think that's the journey for me. That's the journey. That's how the journey started, and that's the journey for me. It's always just you know, if I find that my mind is overthinking, I just kind of come back to a place of equilibrium
Mm.
and, you know, remember who I am.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you went on a silent retreat to India. So so the characters or the legends that you have, the ones that you meet, I'm guessing that you discovered in India, will they be in the play as well, or is this purely going to be about legends that have made a massive impact in your life with your family?
It's there's so much in the play. Um, yeah, there's so much different characters in the
Mm.
play, and they make up the storytelling, you
Right, I
know.
see.
Also the guidance, I was guided by on the retreat. I went with my brother Muji,
Mm.
and he is you know, quite a prolific spiritual teacher, and so
Mm.
his guidance is guiding me
Yeah.
throughout also, um, as a living legend, you know. The other legends in my life have passed. So yeah, it's 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 all different. It's all different voices
Mm.
that uh, appear. Some come like our memory is. Memory, sometimes memories are very vivid, and
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes it's like just how you remember it. It might,
Mm.
yeah, it's just how you know how you were in that moment when it was happening, or whatever experience you were going through. So how you were in that moment, we probably go back to that, you
Yeah.
know.
It's so interesting. What inspired you to write the legends of them? And because I know it's such a it's going to be such like it's like a precious piece as well because it's so much about your journey in your life. But what made you decide that you wanted to make this into a, a like a live performance?
I've had a colorful life, you know,
Mm.
and I feel like I've lived many lives. I've you know, as a singer, as a mother, as a sister, you know, just as a person. I think I've lived quite a few lives. And when I started to write this story, I feel like I was just in a lot of grief. I was in a lot of grief. And I think that's what brought me to start writing. So I didn't even know what story I was writing at the time. Sorry about the background noise.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, I didn't know what story I was writing. I just felt that I needed to write, and it was helping me. Just putting things down was helping me. And then it started. I just started writing about things in my life. You know, many people had passed. You know, and you know, my brother passed, and then my son's father passed in a really tragic way, and then, you know, my sister passed, and then, you know, my mother. And so there was a lot of, actually, whilst I was writing it, it was, you know, most of the people were alive when I started. And then, you know, as it went on, you know, they passed. So I think it was grief, that I was in a place of grief, a lot of grief in my life, over time, over years. And I think that was kind of my way of dealing with it. And actually, I didn't really put anything on the script as like, this is what kind of script it's going to be. I just started to write. And with the help of Nina Linden and Joe McInnes, who are producers and director, they helped me to shape the piece. So they acted as dramaturg, as, you know, just listeners, you know, taking, I'd talk, and then they'd transcribe what I said. And, you know, they really just helped to push this whole thing, to put this whole thing together. And so the piece informed us.
Right. Okay.
What it is. Yeah, that's the way around. And I'll tell you something, that's the way I will always recommend, and I will always work, rather than, because when you get stuck on this is the piece I'm going to write, for me anyway, it can just be so challenging. And you know, when something is so prescribed, that gives me pressure. I get anxiety. And so if I'm just given, you know, free reign to just write and just do what I got, you know, and then just allow whatever it is, whatever the story is, to just unfold. And I find this way it's been so cathartic, and such a beautiful process.
I can imagine. It's almost like therapy to yourself, in a way, because I find, like, when you write things down, it's like you're letting it out of your body, and you can reread it. And also for you taking on Lorna Gee, who is technically, Lorna Gee is you. So it's like you can get to see the journey in a different way, which is very beautiful. I was going to ask you, what is it like to take on the character of Lorna Gee?
You know, it's a part of me. It's who I am. You know what I mean? I'm Lorna Gee, Lorna Gayle, Sutara Gayle. It's the same. It's the same, but different. As young Lorna, you know, I saw things that, I guess, that trajectory enabled me to act in certain ways. But as you grow older, you know, you learn, and it's always about being the witness. So I'm able now to be the witness of all of those things that happened, of everything, actually, because that's what my brother teaches too, is to be the witness. When you can be the witness, there's a certain detachment from your personal stories. You know what I mean? So I don't feel so attached to the story now, and also it feels like it doesn't belong to me. As you say, when you write it, you're letting it out, you're letting it off. And because I've been through such a process, such a journey, with not only in the writing but in my life, you know, just in my life, I feel like it's not my story anymore. It's not mine to hold on to. A lot of times when we hold on to our stories, there was a line in there that said, this is my pain, this is my grief, and I want to keep it. And a lot of times that's what we do. We have a story and we hold on to our story, and all our decisions are based on our experience and our stories. And sometimes if we take ourselves out of that and be the witness, then we can have so much of a truer response to
I totally agree with you. It's really interesting you said that, actually, about not holding on to your grief or your pain, because I am guilty of it as well, where I kind of you almost think, okay, this is my story, this is my pain, and I can't let it go. But the moment you let it go, then you can breathe. You don't have that kind of it's a journey to let it go, but if you let yourself let it go at some point, it can really free you.
If you want it bad enough, if you're in a state that you know that you can't be here anymore, I can't feel these. No, it's not that feel these feelings, because we're always going to feel. Once we try to block feeling, that's another grief again. But once we can, be in that place of acceptance, basically, you know what I mean? That okay, yeah, these things happened, but it's not who I am. You don't have to define yourself by what's happened or your experiences, because it's not who you are. And that's what when it talks about being the witness, you let yourself off. You let yourself off the hook, and it is a process. It does take time. It took me a long time, but I've always found myself on a spiritual journey. I was brought up in a Seventh-day Adventist church. That is in the play. We deal with that too, because it was a very really strict upbringing in that way, and I rebelled against that too. I rebelled against it, but I'm so thankful for it, because that's where my spirituality started, and that's how I was able to when I got a new learning of Christ, of God, of the God self, I had a better understanding. And it's because I had that learning from the beginning. It was so easy to capture it. It was so easy to land in my heart.
So interesting. But what would you like, because there's so much that I think the audience will take away from the play, especially around the journey of letting the pain go. What would you like your audience to take away from watching the play?
Just to kind of, first of all, to come and watch a show. We want to make it a really lovely show. It's got some dark bits in it, but we want to make it a really nice show. I love theatre. I love theatre so much. And Jo, who's directing, she's such a bloody theatre maker, man. And we vibe off each other so much, you know what I mean? So we want to make a good theatre piece, and also want to make it an experience rather than just a play that you come and see. It's almost like an invitation, to reflect on your own story, and whatever that means to you, to start a dialogue about your own story, just to kind of probably be open and truthful, and whatever that means to you. So probably just to start that dialogue, and it's just a sharing. It's sharing. It's a sharing of some stories and experiences and of a journey, one woman's journey. I hope it encourages people to look at their journey.
Yeah, and I bet it will. It's interesting you said about experience, because I did read that it says it's about an experience. It's a very unique experience that you will get from watching the piece. And I know there's music incorporated in there as well. Could you tell us a bit more about the music side of the piece?
Well, some of the music, as you probably know, I was a musician, artist before becoming an actress. So I spent, over 20 years in the reggae music industry, both here in Jamaica and in New York. I lived in New York for like 6 years. So that in itself, performing with artists like Buju and Ninja Man and, you know, Shabba Ranks, and winning awards with them, and just like that whole life, and how that turned a little bit seedy also. There's a seedy side to that. Yeah. And coming through the other side of that. And so there's music that I've made that is going to be in the show, and there's new music that I've written for the show. Mostly music, it's new music that I've written for the show, which I'm really excited about, because you know, for a very long time, I haven't written songs. You know, I used to write so many songs in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, and then it was something that I just got this writer's block. It was just like, it's just something that almost didn't exist for me anymore until even writing this play. And even when I started writing this play, I didn't know that I could write. You know, I'd written little projects for drama groups that I used to run for my academy and stuff. And I'd written, you know, we've done like a remix of Romeo and Juliet, and we've done so I'd write this, but I didn't think that I could write a play for, you know what I mean? And much less write songs for the play. But as I said, you know, you never know what you can do until you do it, you know. And when you've got really good people around you that's encouraging you, that can see your light, because sometimes we can't see our own light. No matter how we say, yeah, man, with this and with that, and this, you know, sometimes we don't really actually see our own light. So when you've got good people around you, it's so essential to have good people, and people that can say, you know, not just big you up, but can say, look, you know, you can do this. I know you can do this. And you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Let me try. Because there has been a point where I have done it in my life. So something must be still there. You know what I mean? And then you give it a go, and then it just starts coming out, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. When it's your destiny, like when you have been given like these great talents, and you can just use it, just like you're sharing your talents with so many people, it will start flowing freely. And I can imagine, like, for audiences as well, it's exciting to hear new music, and we'll see your passion through and through it, which adds to that unique experience that the whole play is going to give us. You know, I was going to ask you, because from looking at the read up, I can see that there's like loads of themes, especially with identity, community, and even music. And there's so many things going on at the moment where people are struggling to find identity, and also people struggle with community. Could you tell us a bit more about the themes and how you think it could help audiences try to kind of find their own self?
You know, it's really interesting what you said about identity, because I said to Joe just this week gone, you know, this show is about identity. It is about identity. Because, you know, I kind of always been that person that I tried not to say, you should do this or you should do that. I tried to just live a life that I feel is truthful.
Yeah.
And you know, hopefully people have said, oh, you know, that's really inspired me. Or, you know, so I don't want to say what I feel people should get from it, or how they should do it, because everyone has their own journey, and everyone's going to see it in the way that they can, and not everyone's going to feel comfortable with it either. Do you know what I mean? And that's what theatre's about. Theatre's about you coming and making your own mind. It's not about saying, you know, this is what you should do, this is how you should handle things. It's about come and see and see what it does to you. See how it opens you up, and how you can grasp your truth. Because there's, you know, my brother says there's only one world, but there's a billion different people are looking from different eyes. You know what I mean? So everyone really has their own world. They're looking at their own trajectory. They're looking through their own tinted windows, or whatever you call it. You know, so people will see things differently. but I can only tell you how I saw things and
Mm.
how I see things. That's what I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you get anything from it, that's great.
Mm.
That's really great. But I can tell you what I did, what happened, and how I got through it. And now I'm still getting through it because the story doesn't end until I take my last breath.
Yeah. Mm.
It
Because
doesn't end. It's the journey. It's a journey. It's just a journey, you know. It's just a journey. And I'm beginning to, I mean, I've always had a zest for life. I love living life, you know, and I know what it means to live like it's your last moment. And that's something that I really made a pact to do. It's just live every day like it's my last. Because you just never know when you're gonna go. You don't know when your time is up. So what's the point of living in flipping misery, man? Do you know what I mean? Just do what brings you joy. Just do what brings you joy. So making this show is bringing me so much joy. And it's been therapeutic also, and cathartic and all of that. But it's also bringing me a lot of joy because I'm being creative and I love being creative.
I'm so glad that it brings you. It's such a beautiful thing. Like even just the fact that it brings you so much joy, that energy will make the whole piece so beautiful. Just because you'll feel your energy throughout.
Mm.
There are three legends. Am I right in thinking there's three legends? So it's your mum, your sister, and Nanny Maroons.
That's right. And then
Out of
one living religion.
one
My brother.
okay.
But
So there's four
yeah. But
legends.
the legends that are actually guiding me through on hypothetically you know, my mother, my sister, because those three women are the actual blueprint of my life. You know, my mother, my sister Cherry, and Nanny of the Maroons, because obviously my mother is the one I've known since I was born, and is the biggest influence in my life. My sister Cherry, it was like my second mother. She was a lot older than me, and her kids were the same age. We were some of us were the same age group, so we all grew up together. And she was so wise, the wisest person I've ever known in my whole entire life. And so she taught me a lot about my Black history, because I wasn't learning that in school and I wasn't really learning that at home. But my older brothers might, you know, say, you know, bits and pieces. But Cherry was the one who told me the real stories and the real Jamaican stories. You know what I mean? Not the pampered ones, you know, but the real, yeah. She said, this used to happen, you know, and your mother used to, and you know know about Nanny of the Maroons. She never tell you about Nanny of the Maroons. We are the Maroon people. We are the, you know what I mean? Whereas my mom in that generation didn't really talk about them things. They just want to come and get on, come back to England, come to England, you know, adapt the English way and head down and just, you know, get on and, you know, not bring up the past and stuff like that. But I got much of the past from my sister Cherry. Yeah. And then so that that made me start digging and doing my own research. And yeah. And it empowers you.
100%, because our history is so important. My family are Jamaican as well. So I remember really looking into Happy Independence for yesterday.
Come on.
So I remember reading deep into the Maroons, because you don't hear not enough about it. Like it's almost like people don't. It's just we will never hear it in the UK anyway. It's not. You never hear about this history. You have to buy the books, or you have to have someone tell you about it, and it's such an important, huge
Such
thing.
an important. Nanny overthrew the British soldiers and was able to get her own settlement. And that's where my mum was born. My mother was born in Moortown.
Oh,
She went
really?
to Moortown school. Yeah, that's Nanny Town, Maroon Town, it was originally called.
Wow.
That's where my mother was born. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Carnwell Barrack, Comfort
Wow.
Castle. That's where my mum was born, and that's where she grew. And that's where
Wow.
Cherry, my sister Cherry, grew. You understand? You know, when I
Yeah.
went back to my mum's place where my mum grew up, that's where they have Nanny's grave.
Wow.
Tombstone is right there, right in front of the school where my mum went to. So you can't deny it. You have that energy. I've
Mm.
seen the energy. There's only no question like how you're so strong. My mother had 8 children, and she bought
Wow.
by herself, more or less. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? And she saw us through university, saw my brothers through university, and my sister went to I mean, she really, and my mum, I watched my mum work 3 jobs to keep us, you know what I mean, clean and fed. And I saw her go through so much. So some of her stories in there. And I feel like by me telling my story and telling our stories, you know, I feel like, yeah, it's an ode to my mother also, you know. No, it wasn't easy for her, but yeah.
No,
So yes.
that is
Mm.
it's amazing to think that. I mean, just the fact that you've told me that your mum grew up in that area, it's that strength. It just runs deep. It runs deep through you all, literally through you all, and the story runs deep,
It
which is
runs deep. There's characterizations and mannerisms and stuff and things that she done that it's replica. If we look at our lives and how we've lived over time, it's actually, you know, it's a true reflection. It's a repeat. History will repeat itself over and over and over. The many experiences is exactly the same. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
maybe it's different times, but it's same thing, it's same decisions as us as a people, as Black people. It's same. There's a lot of strife that still goes. There's a lot of stigma that still goes. There's a lot of it's going through times and goes, and it trickles down, and it trickles down through families. Yeah,
Definitely,
and
it really does.
yeah, and they talk about breaking a generational curse. It's a thing. That is a real thing, man. It's a choice. It is a choice. It's a choice whether we want to do that or not. Whether you choose to bring up your children in a different way. There's some things that you know, that when my mum was growing us, that was good grounding, that stayed with us and helped us, the respect and everything like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I would never kiss my teeth at my mother, much less try answer her. Yeah, I was too afraid to do them things there. And it wasn't even afraid, that's the wrong word. It's the respect. Why would I do this to this woman in front of her face, and you know, or something like that? It's the respect. I would never
100%.
dream of doing that. You understand? And so yeah. And then there's also things where, you know what I mean, when we used to get beat to, she beat me, I wouldn't do that to my child. I look at her, I think, and you know, we say, you know what, you never done us any harm. Look, yeah, all right. But there's some children are sensitive. Sometimes they're very, very sensitive, and you don't know how they hold certain things. And also, you know what? When you have a children, then man, you've got this precious, precious being. I look at my grandchildren now and I think to myself, if him papa and mother want even put them on pan them, you see, me will go down there myself and beat the papa and mother. You understand? That would never happen. I'll look at them and think, imagine them being beaten with a strap.
It's so
God,
now it makes
man.
me feel sick But it was very much
sick. But it was the thing, because it come from slavery. Yeah. That's what the master used to do, is to beat them. You know what I mean? You know, somebody, my auntie told me that my father, you know, my father used to get put on a tree, put in a crocus bag and beat him. That's all them. I mean, it's all slavery. And then it comes down, it's passed down and it's passed down. You know what I mean? But when we think of them, some of us, when we think of these things now, it's like, jeez and peas. Well, I made a decision very early on that I was not going to be that parent. Yeah, I draped up my son many times. You understand? I draped him up. I said, yeah, what? Do you understand? But you see the beating thing. No, man. No. And why would you want to look at a precious child that God has gifted and beat them to a pulp? Why would you want to do that? Which real parent would want to do that? You know, when we're talking about church, and we talk about God this, and God will do this, and God won't, you know, and God will punish you, and God, you know, fire and brimstone, and he will just. That is not my God.
No.
Not my God. You know, they put the fear of God into you, and actually, God is a kind, generous, beautiful God. You know what I mean?
An amazing father.
Amazing father, you know, and he would not beat you to a pulp.
No, I agree.
So yeah, man, there's plenty learning. I mean, none of that's in the play, by the way. It's just I kind of came off a track a little bit, but well, I say none of that's in the play. Let's see what's in
that's it. That's true. It's too. We'll have to see, because it's got
the thing about it. It's got little bits of stories, but they all add up. They all link. It's got little bits of stories that, you know, and we've been through a whole process of taking stuff out, because, babes, when I started, I was just going, and the whole life was pouring out, the whole laughter. And then, so we just decided what we wanted to keep and what we wanted to take away. So a lot has been taken away, and then a lot has been added back, and then a lot has been taken away, and then a lot has been added. And then
wow, it's like a layers. It's like an onion of so many different layers, which is what makes a play so rich. I think is that it has so many layers to it, which is important. It's so important.
Yeah.
I have some very quick 5 questions. It's basically the first thing that comes to your head. So my first question for you would be, what is your favorite theatre space?
My favorite theatre space, mate, I've got to say the Olivier and the National. I love playing on. Well, I mean, I had the good fortune of playing on it twice, and it's just so vast and so beautiful, and so much with space. Space allows you to breathe. I'm so much hooked up on space now. Just space to breathe, space to play, just space in life. It brings me great joy. Yeah. So
no, that's a perfect space, to be honest. Your favorite theatre show? It can be any show.
Do you know what? This is crazy, but I saw 12th Night at the Globe when I was at drama school, and it had I'm not going to remember his name. He played Olivia. I'm not going to remember his name, but that was a real experience. Mark Rylance, I think his name is. It blew me away. That still today, I still think about that, the way how he floated, how he glided across the stage. It was a big influence for me, because I was still at drama school, and to come and see a play of that magnitude, it was like, oh yes. And also Debbie Tucker Green's Born Bad. It's the first time. yeah, it's the first time I saw reflection of me on stage.
Mm.
That really had a real imprint on me too. Yeah.
And then your dream guest, so someone you would like to see or play. They can be dead or alive.
Uh, my mum. I'd like my mum. I'd like my mum to see it.
Nice. And your proudest career moment to date.
My proudest career. What, as a singer or an actor?
Oh, that's a good question. Both.
um, I would say one of my proudest moments is when I in New York when I won an award for Best Female DJ and Shabba Ranks won Best Male that year, 1992. We were at the Ritz in New York. And up until then, I'd made 3 records in America. And the last one, Left Him, which was a counteraction to Cobra's Take Him. Just done so well. And I was in such shock.
Mm.
I went there to eat the food and drink the drink. I was actually eating chicken wings in the reception at the front when they called my name. And so I had to
Wow.
run right through the building. This guy ran me through the building to get my award, to go on stage. And I come on stage and everybody's looking at me and I'm like, oh my God. It was crazy. That was a really defining moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as acting, I think all the moments, man.
Yeah. They're all
All the moments in acting.